Let's bring in now former Congressional Budget Office Director Doug Holtz-Eakin to discuss this. It seems that Canada does want to avoid tariffs. The Canadian proposed a $1.3 billion package to secure their border. They're ending temporary processing for some visas at their border stations and reassigning those personnel to patrol the border. It's an election year in Canada. What would tariffs do to the Canadian economy?
It would be a recession for the Canadian economy, no question. They rely heavily on the United States for roughly 80% of their exports. Those tariffs would really hurt the sales into the U.S. And so they're going to try to avoid that. And, one of the things they can do is put more resources on the border. They put more drones out there, put more bodies out there, try to intercept the flow of fentanyl, especially some illegal immigration, not nearly the southern border. But that's one way to think about this, just sort of a rifle shot. But I think the right way to think about this is it is very common for trade deals to have sidebars on labor standards, sidebars on environmental standards. And I think the president-elect is setting up to have a sidebar on border standards and do it with both Mexico and Canada in the context of renegotiating the trade agreement in 2026. It's coming. Right. And this is just the opening salvo in that negotiation. Let's have a permanent fix to this border issue.
And he seems like he's getting some action as of right now, though. So both sides, there's an incentive there for both sides, because a 25% tariff on Canadian goods coming into the U.S. would affect our economy, too. How would it affect prices in the U.S.?
They would have to go north. And perhaps not dramatically right away, but nobody wants higher prices. We've been through a period of just untenable inflation. The Fed hasn't got the genie entirely back in the bottle, doesn't want to see it get more legs. It's already been more stubborn than they expected, and those tariffs would, in fact, make their life much, much harder.
I want to turn to the president-elect's agenda here. He has an aggressive agenda to undo everything that he thinks President Biden had messed up. The president-elect is not in office yet, but he's moving still very quickly. Should the tax cuts be done with a border bill in one big package, do you think, or should tax cuts come first?
I leave that to the legislative experts. I mean, this is really a matter. You've got to get 218 and 50 in the Senate, and how you get to yes is the matter of just counting votes. I think that's going to drive things, not grand economic strategy.
How important are their tax cuts for the U.S. economy?
So let's remember, there's no tax cut by just extending the 2017 bill. That's avoiding a $5 trillion tax increase. Right. That's really important. That's avoiding a recession for us. So that has to happen. Anything on top of that is a bonus. And the border, lots of ways to get that done. We're seeing that right now.
So, wrapped into all of this is electing a new House Speaker in January. I want you to listen to this real quick.
Before the last couple of weeks, I was, in his corner, but now I'm, we should consider what's the best path forward. And again, we reconvene on January 3rd. We obviously have a lot of important things to do in January, but we do need to consider whether, if we're going to advance Mr. Trump's agenda, whether the current leadership is what we need.
Mike has done an admirable job under tough conditions, but I'm going to keep my options open. I want to have a conversation with Mike. I don't know where this is going right now, but with Thomas Massie already saying he's a hard no, people like Victoria Sparks saying that they're likely a no, that's concerning, and we just got to make sure that we get the best person for the job.
So you can't get from a yes to a no without a maybe, and it seems like we're seeing a lot of maybes here. Representative Andy Harris yesterday on this program, he said, and he's the head of the Freedom Caucus, so he has some votes that are with him. Could this sow chaos again in the House and affect the agenda to get those tax cuts passed?
No question. We've seen this movie before. The potential for this to drag out for a week or so early in January sets back the schedule on everything. But I think this kind of reasoning really misses the larger point. At the moment, they have a one-vote margin. They'll get a best of three-vote margin. And it doesn't matter who the speaker is. With margins that thin, you're going to have trouble getting to Republicans carrying bills. So they're going to have to accept the fact that there will be bills they need Democratic votes on. Let's identify those bills, have a different strategy for them than for core parts of the Republican agenda.
Are you concerned that the House Republicans can't unify?
I am very concerned about what we saw over the CR and the debt limit and all of what just went on. That showed a real inability for House, Senate, and White House to work together. That's troubling. There's a lot on the table.
How important is that, in the last 30 seconds that we have, how important is that they work together? Because, this is an aggressive agenda, and if you don't have the president-elect on board, with what you're doing, that gets messy.
There's an aggressive agenda that you sort of put it all together and you take a vote. And then there's an aggressive agenda where you have to pass a budget resolution in the House, one in the Senate, agree between them, then put together a reconciliation bill in the House, pass it, put it together in the Senate, pass it, and agree. There are a lot of votes. They need to get all the votes lined up and have them all work. That's really the part I'm worried about.
Doug Holtz-Eakin, I appreciate it. Thank you for your insight on this. I'm sure we're going to come back on this again. We'll see you.